It's always my question. First of all, thank you everyone, and thank you for having me here. And if I start with a quote, "Good morning, Vietnam." The reason why I say that is because we are really in the storm of designing the next framework program for funding of research. This is a process which concerns science policy. Often science policy is not discussed in departments, in universities. We are usually concerned with the local politics rather than the large European discussion, ministerial discussion. But I think it's important that we are pretty much activities that were very much at the core of interest soon after the Second World War. But over time, I don't know what you think, but I think the research has changed a little bit in the way we do research from the 60s. And this is still not very much mirrored by the accounting system that we got, on the basis of which we still decide the major allocation of funding for research. So we decided the context in which many of the activities of research for humanities and social sciences didn't even exist. Longitudinal studies in the 60s were not even a thing. And so the methods on local studies, for example, and understanding society in the context, were very different. Big data did not exist. So proportionally, the way how our national system are set up are the funding for humanities and social sciences very much bottom up. What's the consequence of that? They get extremely fragmented. Everybody's got a penny to play with, and so we have our own methods. It's the most scattered and diverse community of research, not just because we are independent, autonomous thinking, which we are, absolutely no question about it, but also because funding are being extremely fragmented and bottom up, no systematic, no national strategies. So smaller budget at national level in all the OECD countries. I want to introduce also what is the European system, because of research and innovation at national level works, has its own space and remit. But at the European level, the investment in research is very much tied up and linked with the multi-annual financial framework, the MFF, in my slide. The multi-annual financial budget is an enormous budget, which includes anything from agriculture to research and innovation. So in reality, when we go and talk about innovation and research, sorry, I really lost there. When we talk about investing in research, actually we're competing with the investment on agriculture. And you might think that this is ridiculous. I mean, how can you compare the two? But actually, this is the reality of the politics. So when, and I'll tell you more later, but when we first started with this whole discussion about how to fund research at European level, the next framework program, the first things we have to say is that we need a budget for research, guys. And you think it would be taken for granted, but it's not. So the system is quite complex and also has a number of actors. The Brussels circus, as we like to call it, we got lions, tigers, bears, rabbits. We got a whole range, but we got member states doing the magic, we got regions doing the magic. Years ago I was invited at the very first discussion on a framework program Horizon Europe, the one that we are dealing with now. And had a 3 minutes elevator pitch to showcase research in social science, humanities. And I had it all pitched out very nicely. And when I sat at the table, next to me there was someone from trade union. The next to me was someone from industry. And for the first 20 minutes, there wasn't a word around research. And I was talking about the value of philosophy and how philology is the groundbreaking for language models. And all of a sudden, I realized I was completely on my own. So when I've been given my 3-minute speech, I said, sorry, so Gabi, Lombardo, why should we give money to research and science humanities? And I said, sorry, there must be a mistake here. I'm not here for such a science humanity research. I'm here because the European citizens want to know if they get a pension when they retire. I'm here because a living standard are one of the things that European citizens cry for. It happened to be the research we're working on. I'm here for the European citizen. Anybody else? And that's a change in the speech. I mean, sometimes our discourse has to be adapted to the politician, and that's a little bit the challenge of the work that we do. So the system is quite complex, and they are very well established also research ecosystems. Life science have a very large lobbies in Brussels, very active. They even managed to have a life science research strategy in the new framework program. And we also have members of ministry who come from very different angles, because research is not funded by all the same ministry. In some countries, the Ministry of Education, some countries, the Minister of Research, some countries, the Minister of Finance, which are the one that hate us the most, by the way. But that's the challenge. So the discussion is never homogeneous, and it's never the same. We also have a massive lobbying from industry. They have a really vested interest, and not always side the way that the values of research per se. So we need to negotiate with them around the world to talk. And finally, we have a proposal around large co-funded programs, so they have their own life almost, the European partnerships. And the work is drafted with a plethora of actors around the tables. It's not just you talk to one and you solve it. You talk to the ministry level, you talk to the region level, you talk to the member state level, you talk to the European representative in Brussels and the member states. It's a collection of people. But in reality, the framework program is very much a mirror image, almost happened at the national level. And as I explained earlier, the budget for social science and humanity at national level tend to be smaller because they are bottom-up funded. And as a result, the European context mirrors that disparity. So why does it matter to know what an European framework program for research is? Well, it matters because, first of all, establishing many of the priorities of research for funding. And, okay, we can argue that everything is important, and we agree. But if you bear in mind that the funding at the European level represented no much more than between 5 and 10% of the overall funding of research in Europe, you need to have some priorities. Otherwise, it's impossible to work. And so it's extremely important to contribute to set up those priorities and to be present and to be seen, because otherwise you get bypassed and other priorities with the other larger lobbies prevail. It also allowed to create a capacity. So you all know ERC, the European Research Council, has been a base and a ground for create a capacity and visibility for the humanities and social sciences. And again, it's been the European funding with a very fraction of the overall funding for research in Europe. 90% still come from national environments, but has set a very important tone, not just for researchers here in each member state, but overall for Europe in the world. So that's the other important aspect. Marie Curie program, ERC, and so on. Why it matters again? Because it mirrors what's happening at national level. So the more active we are at national level, the more this can be translated into the European area. Something that we discover doing each as being of the European Alliance is that sometimes our argument at the European level trickle down at the national level, which is critical as well. And the other thing is that the European funding, like or not, they set some rules, multidisciplinarity being one of them, and set the rules also for member states to trying to line up. Why do they want to line up? They want to have the better option. It's a competition after all, so obviously they would like to be more competitive. So what is set at the European level trickle down to the member states as well. So it goes in both directions. Why matters to have a community? I mean, and this is why I'm here. It's critical to have a community of research. The more fragmented we are, the more invisible we are. The more fragmented and caring for each individual priorities on a small level, the less policymakers are realizing this is the tool. The more fragmented the results are, and more vague the analysis of the output of research are, or more fragmented in millions or a plethora of journals and different outlets, the less visible from the big sky in Brussels. So it's really important to have a community. So a group of pioneers set up what is called the European Alliance of Social Science and Humanities, and I'm representing it here. And it started with when Horizon 2020 forgot the social science and humanities was an area of research where to invest completely. So a petition, 100,000 signature, hey guys, we're here. And all of a sudden, a little challenger was created. Not a very big one, I have to say, a bit of a failure, but it was there. We are very much community-driven. We are over 70 members between universities and disciplinary associations like yours who support the Alliance. We are the largest in Europe, and we are very much policy-driven. So what you're doing at the conference this week is to look at the wealth and breadth of educational research. This is your job. We do not have any, obviously, say on any of that. But we look at the science policy perspective, to be an overview, a bird's eye on what's happening in the political side, which is critical because it allowed us to put priority like education into the picture. And we will do a lot of work on the structure, the story I was telling earlier, why we are in the situation we are today, and explain to policymakers that they are past the headings, they're still stuck in it, they're still funding research like 60 years ago. We need a voice for that. It has to be a single voice. And we need to create that kind of coherent discourse. Because when any other person walking by Brussels becomes the voice of the community, this is problematic. When we first started, every single person walking by Brussels would tell the Commission of Research, but social science humanity don't use any tools or any technology at all, they don't do data. And the Commission would say, oh, okay, then they don't need money. And I said, but today, it's great to say that actually the Commission said, no, sorry, hold on a second. It seems to me that there's a position paper where the community is saying that the impact of technology on their research has been massive and actually needed twice the money that we are considering because it's never enough. And this is the coherent, the community voice, not just the passing by. It's extremely important that we have a coherent voice, that we say the same things, and then we say all together to be heard at every level. And we cover all the disabilities. I've been asked several times the same question. How do you cover social science, humanities? They are so different, and we do very different things. I thought, well, we not cover the specific of the disciplines. We look at science policy. From the science policy perspective, there's no difference between social science and humanities. I'm sorry, someone might get offended by that, but it's the reality of the political environment. So who are we today? Well, we're the largest umbrella organization. We have a very good connection with similar umbrella organizations across other continents. We are members and stakeholders of the European research area. With the major roundtable around science policy, so research infrastructures, the EOSC. We also participate on a number of very high-level meetings. We also became an independent expert for ministries to understand, okay, this SSH, but what do you do, guys? And my answer usually is, you don't need to know what we do, you need to know that A exists, that 2 is great. So a bit of confidence on that message. But what's important is that we are experts in the sense that we provide data. So we did a whole data analysis, for example, I was talking about the cost area, to say, actually, you know what, there's no difference on funding a project on technology or funding a project on social science and humanities. Because you know what, the European funding only fund career salaries, traveling, conference, and these things are not discipline impacted. So actually there's no reason why a project on life science costs 15 billion or 15 million and our one costs not even 3. So we needed to have that narrative coherently together. And we do data gathering in order to be credible and we're becoming a good voice for the ministry to ask about. And we also work on other areas, so we're part of setting up a working group on the coalition of reform and research evaluation. Very critical that we have very clear to everyone that we do research with high standards. That it's not random what we do, but it's actually very well assessed. And we're also part of a number of very important platform, like the European partnerships. So we now have I'm a member of the scientific committee, for example, for brain health. And we are setting up an area where social science can contribute to the research on brain health. It should never happened before. So brain health has always been life science domain. They've been doing it for 20 years or with billions. We don't. My colleague working on children development has a 15 case studies. My colleagues in life science are working exactly on the same thing from the life science perspective, 450,000. When they talk to the policy maker, who thinks that they're going to listen to? And this has been problematic because then we don't have a chair at the table, which we desperately need. But let me take you to the nitty-gritty of our current war. Design a new framework program is always at a very tense time and crisis. It started in a political context, and many of you have heard of some of this report that I'm mentioning here on the slide. I'm not going through every detail because I'm not here to put you asleep, but I want to engage you. But to tell you that a framework program is not a vacuum, and it's not only it's not a vacuum, it's not related necessarily to research and innovation in key topics. It's actually an important discussion around the overall problem of the multi-annual financial framework. It looks at the overall conditions of where Europe is and where Europe wants to go. It's very much a European debate on policy. And so the background of the multi-annual financial framework and the research and innovation framework, which is part of it, is all these reports about, actually there was a speech yesterday by Ursula von der Leyen who highlighted some of the things that we actually pick up on our position paper as well, so it's very important. And the Draghi report on the competitiveness of Europe has been critical and central to this whole discussion, to the point that we're talking about setting up a European competitiveness fund, which nobody knows what it is, by the way. We've been talking for months now, but nobody knows what is in there. But it's part of it, it's large, it's big, it's enormous. And then the only, let's say, specialistic report has been this one of the ECER report, which was a group of scientists and not just scientists, industry representatives as well, which focus more on the research and innovation framework. But the starting point was, the Commission was proposing that we don't need the research framework anymore. We downgraded it, guys. We do a competitiveness fund and we'll cover everybody, everybody's going to be happy, it's a big pot for everyone, don't worry, you will find something for everyone, no problem at all. And the whole research community reach out for the industry community, reach out for the trade union, reach out for the region, and we said, no, we will have a standalone program. We will have a program based on research and innovation investment. We have to have that. And it's been back and forward, the politics and people and talking, and this whole process is completely informal and not so transparent. Whoever can reach whoever, it will go for it. But we have one single message. We have to have one research and innovation framework program. We cannot do without it. So eventually, it happened. And we're now working towards a timeline. So now there has been a first proposal, and I will go into the details of the proposal, which was published on the 15th of July 2025, when everybody's on holidays, so nobody can have time to read it on the beach. So we're sitting on the beach reading the Commission proposal, which is fantastic, reading under the umbrella. And we had a discussion. This is the timeline that we more or less expect. So the whole 2026 will be engaged with discussion and mobilization and who talk with whom, and member states, individual member states, single, big ones, little ones, coalition of member states according to this one, and that synergy, and that symmetry. So it's a whole discussion on the overall 27 member states. And we're going to go through the end of 25, the whole year of 2026, where this negotiation becomes more and more important. The next step is, after the proposal has been published in July, we're going to wait for the European Parliament. There are 3 legislators, just to be clear on the practicalities and the process and procedures. So the proposal is prepared by the European Commission, discussed by the European Parliament and the Council of Europe, which is the member states, and the 3 legislators need to agree. There will be editing, reshuffling, and they have to provide the final output at the end of 2026, early 27, for implementation in 28. So what is the proposal? Well, first of all, as I said, research and innovation is integrated in the multi-annual financial framework. And the proposal is for 2 trillion euros. So we're not talking about this. There are quite a lot of money at stake. And it's talking about, in the major program, the major legal text, the vagueness is solid. I mean, honestly, a legal text that usually is supposed to be precise and distinct. This is exactly the opposite in many ways. But they're talking about flexibility, they talk about being able for Europe to react quickly to change in society and change in conditions, the European but also the world situation, to be very sleek and quick in our responses. And there's a lot of talking about being competitive. How can we boost our competitiveness? What is actually make the difference? How Europe can be more productive, more in line with other countries and so on. And there is a cry for new resources from member states. Obviously, it is always the case. A central power is looking for more resources for national countries. The national countries are looking for less power to the central organization. It's the life, the story of life all the time. The main features, again, there are some keywords that are quite interesting, and actually yesterday at the speech the von der Leyen gave, there's been also a stronger message around investing in people, and that's something that we were very keen on. Education and democratic values. Values is a complicated word anyway, but it's important, it's still there. Driving prosperity, and this is where the framework for research and innovation is integrated. Driving prosperity by competitiveness of research and innovation, and the competitiveness fund. So these go all together, almost like a package. And then there are other priorities that obviously are at the core of the discussion. And yesterday, actually, von der Leyen picked up on some key issues around, for example, combating poverty through education, which is something that resonated very clearly to you. What is in this proposal? And please bear in mind the word proposal. Proposal is proposal, and it could change radically. But the Commission, in an amazing and shocking and great surprise from all of us, proposed to double the current budget for research and innovation. So at the moment, the overall budget is around 95 billion. They propose 175 billion. It's not going to happen, by the way, but it's on paper, and this is what matters, that someone puts on paper. And it's very critical. There's a proposed structure that you can see here on the slide. It's not a million miles away from the structure we had previously, what we have at the moment. But it is going that direction. And if you look a little bit more in details, the areas where we are most interested are fundamental research in Pillar 1, of course, and Pillar 2, where very sadly, compared to a draft seen in June, the word society appeared. So nobody knows what society is. Even the Commission, when I asked last week what you put in society, said, all these society things. So we can't clear that, okay? But there is the word. And I can promise you it wasn't there in June. So it's really important that at least there's an acknowledgement that an investment in society in research is critical. And I know what you're thinking. Are we seriously talking about this? Is it true? Is it real? And unfortunately, it isn't. Society wasn't not a priority. It wasn't even there in the draft in June. So, just to give you the sense of the gravity of the situation we deal with. We also have other areas like Pillar 3 on innovation, which is the real winner. The new commission is called Commission for Startup first, and then Research and Innovation. So clearly they've changed your priorities there. And there is a bit more attention on what research policy could be strengthened to understand better the environment in which we implement these things. In terms of comparison with the current budget, you can see that the one on the left obviously is the program we are in at the moment, Horizon Europe 1. With big imagination, the next framework program will be called Horizon Europe 2. Sorry, that's what the feedback is. But the interesting is that the winners are fundamental research and fundamental innovation, which is a good thing, partially. But the big loser remains cooperation. And cooperation is critical. And actually, it's the reason why the framework program was set up. So this is a problematic issue at the moment. And the focus on society at the moment, as I said, vague, but there is a clear statement in the proposal. The first voice of this society will concern global societal challenges, such as migration, disinformation, safeguarding, strengthening and promotion of democracy, as well as social and economic transformation, inclusive society and social cohesion. Now, it's encouraging, it's very much social in the remit, and everybody will think this is a space where research on humanities and social science will stay. Not necessarily. We also have another two headings. One is the New European Bauhaus. I don't know if you know what it is, but it's an investment in rebuilding beauty cities, social housing, green aligned social housing, and so on. And the missions, another big mystery. It's the only place where it's mentioned and nobody knows exactly what is going to happen with that mission. And there are the places where the education is very much at the core of this proposal, and I pick up for you some other parts of it. So there's an investment in skills, very important. Mainly the framework program, the current framework program, particularly Cluster 2, the one for social science and humanity, is co-chaired by DG Employment. And DG Employment is the DG, the Director General, they support the pillar for social rights and education and skills. So it's very much at the core of that discussion, and there is again some attention in the new proposal on that aspect. There is a sense of wanting to reinforce the Erasmus+, although we don't know exactly why or how. And there's a discussion about promoting an Agora EU. Now, what that means is no research, it's not clear what this Agora EU will be. Again, it's very important to put contents in the proposal at the moment, so if you have a chance to contribute to things like that, please do. The idea is to invest the EU as a program, and it has 11 billion set as a proposal, which will look at not just not research necessarily, but small and medium enterprise collaboration, project advisory, and skill development, which is still critical at the European level. Again, what it means in financial terms, so this is a completely standalone, but it doesn't concern research. But your area of research and work often fall side by side with this other parallel program. So you might also find funding for research in this context, if you get approved, of course. And what's the next step? Now, I have to apologize in advance at this point because I'm going to be a very bleak call for action. I got a PhD from the London School of Economics and I love doing research. I became an activist for research for obvious reasons, as I show you in the slides. And I'm calling all of you to work on your research, but also to be an activist in your own rights. So, what are we trying to do at this point? Well, first of all, we're trying to see if we can keep this budget. I mean, 175 billion, member states are saying, nah, too much, it's not going to happen. What else are we trying to do is that there is a policy window talking about resilience, defense, security. Again, could be space for humanities and social science research in its own rights, but it's an integration perspective. And this is one of the 4 policy windows which is integrated with this famous competitiveness fund. So nobody knows what it is again. So, how is it going to happen? How is it going to work? Who's going to get the money? Where the money going to come from? And where are they going to go to? And then we have society. And as I said, when you see society, everybody assumes that society is for research on society. Bad assumption. Bad assumption. Because in Brussels, nobody done this assumption so far. So we need to create the illusion that this is completely true. It's not necessarily accepted by everyone. So, society is for research on society. That's the mantra. And we will all repeat together, in every circle you find yourself, this is what we need to do. We also need to reinforce the research ecosystem. As I said earlier, we have a very fragmented research ecosystem for our disciplines. We need to create capacity. The program that we create capacity at the European level of ERC, Marie Curie. It's really important that we create that cohesion and that support at the fundamental research level and beyond. And what are we doing? Well, we already had establishing connection with a number of parties. So I already been asked meetings with the commissions in charge, not just the Commission for Research and Innovation, because she's also for startup, and very honestly, couldn't care less about social science humanities. But the Vice President for Education is very intrigued. I spoke to her the day before yesterday. We will have a meeting, we will have a discussion, and it's really important that she's on our side. Member of the Parliament, only few. So the ECER committee, which is the committee in charge for this discussion and negotiation, the legislator, the core for the approval of the framework program, has about 38 members. Out of this, do you know how many are interested in research and innovation industry type? No? How many are interested in society? Okay, the one interested in research are probably 12 with the knowledge. And those interested in society, probably 3, roughly. So, these are the numbers. We already been in touch with them. We have a little list of 8 we spanned our remit in the hope that someone else will listen to our story. But we also have 27 member states, ministry level, program committee level, European representative in Brussels, representative of the member state of Europe in the member state. There are quite a few. We try to coordinate interventions, so I'm trying to do a little roadshow. Next week I'm going to be in Finland to talk to the Ministry of Education and Research, an important society, and so to do across all the 27 member states. At the same time, I have to talk to the representative of the member state in Brussels, who has no directions from the Ministry about social science and mind, because at the end of the day, it's such little money, who cares? So we need to inform them too. And then there's going to be the negotiation where, we need to use the knowledge that we have and the interest of the people in bargaining on these issues between, nuclear and artificial intelligence. And this society is, something else. And I want to give you some figures to give you the sense or scope of this. The largest investment in social science humanities in European funding before the current framework program was the framework program 7, with 650 million. Horizon 2020 had about 400 million. We work for Horizon Europe on the current framework, and the cluster of social science humanity today is 2.1 billion. The proposal of the Commission for Society is 7.6 billion. We are changing the game. We are changing the game because we're working together, and that's critical. And we have a consistent message, and that's what I'm here for, in the hope that together with the simple mantra of society is for research on society, we have also proposing some priorities. And you will be all happy because our second priority is, of course, education. We couldn't forget that. But actually, to be very frank with you, we do lots of data analysis. So we are looking at the bibliometrics and what researchers are actually working on. And pretty much these are the topics that the researchers on our community are working on. But also, we've been working with member states, and some member states have been putting out, in the preparation of the proposal for the Commission, some position papers. And we've been harvesting the position papers, and they too aligned to these 5 priorities. So our next position paper, which will come at the end of September, I'm just No, okay, never mind. But it will have the 5 priorities, because society at the moment is an empty box. And an empty box is like the moon. Until someone put the flag, nobody knows who it belongs to. So we're trying to put the flag on society. It's balanced, but it's really critical and important. So these are the other 5 key words that I ask you to bear in mind, and it will be in the position paper. And this is pretty much the recommendations, which won't surprise anyone. We want to keep society, we want to keep the budget for society. We wanted to make sure the horizontal principle of multidisciplinarities, which include the integration of social science and humanity in other areas of research, like artificial intelligence or health, have been kept and has been monitored. And we also look at the securing the implementation of this multidisciplinarity in a proper way. We're doing some data analysis at the moment, and we'll publish another paper later on as a response to the integration report that the Commission prepared, which is showing that, for example, integration worked beautifully in climate change, so we can do integration, we can do multidisciplinarity. But do you know the level of publication for health of social science humanities? I mean, health and social science humanities work really hand in hand in research, very often. Do you know how many publications came out of the project funded in the health program? And the health cluster has about 40% of the topics that they require the contribution of humanity social science. So far, we find 0.1%. 0.1%, it's nothing. So we really needed to find a better way to do integration. And of course, strengthening the fundamental research of ERC and Marie Curie and the global. This is just some of the conferences we're going to work on, and some we're going to be present on. There is the ministerial discussion we're having next week. There is a conference organized by one of our members. There is an ERC conference to which our president has been invited, and we also have a discussion with the Dean in Norway. Netherlands, we organize another ministry discussion, and then there is another conference on research security in which we'll be invited on a panel, and the Danish presidency is doing a whole conference on values, which is very much focused on social science humanities. And again, there's another conference on artificial intelligence, big data and democracy. Plus, there's another conference on artificial science in artificial intelligence and science. Sorry, I just lost which we are providing speakers for. And what's your role? Contribute to the mission. Say the mantra. It might seem to be stupid and boring, but it's really important at every level. Disseminate the key point, disseminate the message, so the more coherent we are, the better hearing we get. Mobilize people. It's not bad to dirty your hands with politics, honestly. This is your politics, this is the hands that feeds research. Please engage. Become an expert. Become an expert reviewer. There's an expert database. You can just sit up, you can just put yourself out there. It's paid very badly. It's really badly designed. It doesn't give any satisfaction, but it's so important to be sitting at the table. And engage with the policy debate. It matters. Thank you.